Wes Streeting was on fire again yesterday, summing up the Conservative Party and their record in about 20 seconds, while at the same time showing the country how it's starting to improve. And I think that's something they need to do more often. The mainstream media is not reporting on the good things, only amplifying the more controversial policies, such as the VAT on school fees and the winter fuel allowance. And it's up to Labour to constantly remind the public of what they're doing to improve people's lives. They've still got quite a bit of a grace period because the Conservatives are still in the process of opposing everything, and 99% of their policies are actually what they implemented. So in a sense, they're literally opposing their own time in office. And it's good to highlight this as well, such as he did with the Conservative Shadow Minister in this exchange. But time is limited, and soon policies and laws that Labour have enacted will come online, and the Tories will actually have something to oppose.
Madam Deputy Speaker, under new leadership on this side of the House, we believe in a leaner and more efficient state. That means using resources effectively, reducing waste and preventing duplication, spending money where it is most beneficial. After all, the public understandably want to see the focus on patient care and not on backroom managers. Therefore, we are supportive of measures to streamline the management, and we do not oppose the principles of taking direct control. But we need to know what steps will be taken to meet targets while all this upheaval happens. We need to know some specifics on what is being planned. What are the timeframes for abolition of NHSE? What date will it be completed by? How many people will be moved into different roles? How many people will lose their jobs altogether? How much money is this expected to save? Labour run the NHS in Wales, where they have the highest waiting lists and the longest waiting times in GB. So what lessons have Labour learnt from their failure in Wales? NHS England has, as the Secretary of State said, just lost much of its leadership. Is that because they had no longer got confidence in the Secretary of State, or because he did not have confidence in them? Perhaps he can tell the House whether Alan Milburn in particular will be someone who does keep his job in this upheaval. While drives to improve efficiency within the civil service and management of the health service is welcome, what about the NHS itself? The government slimmed down our productivity plan and delivered a 22% pay rise in return for no modernisation or reform. How will these decisions improve efficiency? I asked the department what proportion of people with a nursing qualification working in the NHS are in patient-facing roles, but the Minister said they did not know. How can he use the skills and resources effectively if he does not know where those skills and resources are? And while the Prime Minister is making a lot of noise about productivity and cutting waste, he still refuses to set a target for cutting the civil service headcount. And thanks to the decisions he and the Chancellor took at the budget, the size of the state is growing rapidly, not shrinking. Changes to national insurance contributions have diverted funding away from the front line and to compensating the Treasury. And ultimately, any restructure will be challenged by the government's continued failure to tackle immigration. So while steps to improve efficiency in the healthcare service are welcome, these words ring hollow across government.
Madam Deputy Speaker, taking the more serious questions the Shadow Minister raises first. In terms of timeframes, we'll be working immediately to start bringing teams together, as we have been with the one-team culture we've been building for the last 8 months. But I want the integration of NHS England into the department to be complete in 2 years. She asked about the reduction of officials. The size of NHS England, there are 15,300 staff. In the Department of Health and Social Care, 3,300. And across both, we're looking to reduce the overall headcount by 50%. She asked about the data for the workforce and complains we've not been able to give her the precise answers. I agree, it is frustrating not having that precise information at my fingertips. I just gently remind her on this, as with so many things, her party was in power for 14 years. She can't very well complain 8 months in that they left a data architecture and infrastructure, which is woeful and embarrassing. She asked about efficiency, and once again she refers to the resident doctors deal as if this was a failure. The actual failure was leaving doctors on the picket line, not on the front line. The failure was wasting huge amounts of taxpayers' money, and the cancellation delay to patient appointments, operations and procedures We got rid of that within weeks of coming into office. The deal does include reforms that will improve productivity. And if she's in any doubt about the results, she should look at the fact that despite winter pressures, NHS waiting lists have fallen 5 months in a row. Once again, we get the facile points about my right honourable friend Alan Milburn, who is the lead non-executive board member for my department. I honestly don't know why he bothers to pay for a mortgage. He lives rent-free in their heads. They need to move on. And by the way, just for the record, Alan Milburn has a record on the NHS that the party opposite can't even begin to touch. On the issue of confidence, we don't need to ask about confidence in the Conservative Party. It's reflected by the scarce numbers opposite. And on Wales, well, what's the lesson there? The lesson is that when you have a Conservative government in Westminster, in England, Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland, the National Health Service suffers. That is why we are creating a rising tide to lift all ships, and I'm sure we will see improvements across the United Kingdom. The SNP, not in their place, don't have any excuses now because, as I said before the election, all roads lead to Westminster, and down that road to Holyrood it is going the biggest funding settlement since devolution began. So no hiding places there for the SNP, but if people want real reform of the NHS in Scotland, they should vote for Scottish Labour and Anna Sarwar and Jackie Bailey. And look, people can see here in Westminster the difference that new leadership provides. The Shadow Minister opposite laughably referred to new leadership in the Conservative Party. Well, it's certainly leaner, it's certainly meaner, but it is the same old Conservative Party. The only thing they've shrunk is their own party. The only jobs they have laid off are their poor party staff. And the only thing they're capable of changing well, in fact, I don't think there is anything they're capable of changing, come to think of it. Instead, what they do is look over their shoulder at one man leading a party where he can't even manage a five-a-side team, let alone a country. So diminished are they. I appreciate it must be so painful for the Conservative Party. It must be so painful watching a Labour government doing the things that they only ever talked about, reducing the size of bloated state bureaucracy, investing in defence, reforming our public services, bringing down the welfare bill. The public are asking, what is the point of the Conservative Party? I bet they're glad they chose change with Labour.
One thing he did say there in his boast was that Labour are doing things only the Tories talked about. And one of those things is cutting the welfare budget. Now, this isn't something you would expect from a Labour government, and you don't expect Labour to be doing it. So I really hope they've thought this through. Otherwise, what Jesse Norman said yesterday could ring a little true.
We have heard of its so-called Operation Chainsaw, or is that butter knife, to reshape the civil service. Next week we will have hasty and almost certainly ill-thought-through cuts to welfare. Mr. Speaker, Labour were red under the member for Islington North. They became a gentle cerise for voters at the time of the general election. Now that reality is setting in, they're a pleasing shade of purple with more and more patches of blue. The Prime Minister and the government are becoming more conservative by the day.
Dr. Caroline Johnson does come across as a bit of a Tory robot. Actually, there's no signs of emotion there at all. And it was only a few weeks ago that I think she might have short-circuited because she made some very strange remarks in the chamber. The video's on screen now, so go watch that next. Don't forget to hit the like button, and I'll see you next time.